Welcome to Ellevate Louisiana's Engage videocast. Ellevate Louisiana was founded in 2020 to empower women leaders throughout Louisiana by connecting and educating them on the challenges impacting our state with data-driven, nonpartisan solutions to make a better future for Louisiana. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ellevate Louisiana's roundtable discussion with Senator Kirk Talbot on where we're headed in the upcoming 2022 legislative session with regards to long-term care. I'm Julie Stokes, President and CEO of Ellevate Louisiana, as well as your host and moderator for today's discussions. So I would just like to go ahead and introduce my friend Kirk Talbot, who has been a friend of mine for, I don't know, it's been a hot minute, Kirk.
It has.
I think
back to the
your
Jefferson
wife,
Chamber
Julie,
days.
Yeah. I think your wife Julie and I were pregnant with our first kids at the same time, and then they went to school together, and so it's been a long friendship that I very much appreciate. You were elected in 2008, so you were that part of that first group of term. When the term limits ended in Louisiana. So you got elected right at the beginning of kind of a new era in politics in a way. And it's been an interesting, decade plus, I bet. And you were elected to the senator seat in 2016. Into 2020, right? That's when you started. So, I just want to kind of talk about the last session was pretty interesting with your long-term care legislation. I know that you really wanted to see more services to be able to be provided in-home as opposed to long-term nursing facilities. Tell us a little bit about that journey, because it was interesting to watch.
Well, it's so far really hasn't, it unfortunately has not been a journey. So we do not allow that here in Louisiana. That is not an option for low-income families that want to have their loved ones cared for at home versus on going to a nursing home. A lot of states do it. A lot of states have a lot of success with it. Study after study shows that the patients, the senior citizens, are happier. The medical care is better. They live longer. They do better. They check all the boxes. I'm sure I don't need to tell y'all, as a whole, our nursing homes are rated very poorly in Louisiana. We had a lot of problems with Katrina. We had problems with the COVID pandemic. We had problems with the Bob Dean story, the hurricane evacuation for Ida. But all in all, our star ratings for nursing homes in this state are not good. From a fiscal standpoint, it's cost us, the state, all of us taxpayers, a lot of money to have those people in nursing homes. It's a lot cheaper to have them get home care. I've seen upwards to maybe even $100 million a year savings in getting treatment at home. And, again, we're not saying we're not cutting off their options. We're simply just giving them that option to stay at home. Things like telemedicine, things like that, having your prescription drugs brought to your door, having someone, do some medical examinations over a Zoom call. All those things are conducive for reasons why we should allow that. But to be totally frank, the nursing home lobby is very powerful in the state. They even killed a study commission I had just to study this. You want to talk about a journey. When Jindal first got elected, they studied this home health issue. They had a big blue ribbon panel, all stakeholders involved, LDH, private, public, all these things came together. And this is, I'm just pulling this from news reports. At the very last minute, they were poised to pull the trigger, put this thing out for bid. The nursing home industry sent an email, we're not for it, and the whole thing died. And ever since then, we can't even get our nose under the tent. So it's been frustrating. I think that this group of legislators is more likely to pass this. But as Julie well knows, Health and Welfare Committee on the House and Senate side are graveyards for any reform to the nursing home industry, and any proponent of long-term care that doesn't involve them, those bills die in committee. I think it's simply a matter of, if we could get it on the floor of either house, we would be very successful. And I think I think our seniors deserve this. So I know that's a long answer to a short question, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, not at all, because actually, because Ellevate jumped on board with long-term care as a policy initiative of ours, I followed and watched what you went through. And just more disclosure, but Senator Talbot, I have a cancer advocacy group that I work with too, and you were able to do great things with moving legislation in the House and Senate. I mean, you've been around for a long time, you're well respected. I was shocked to see the degree by which they were able to control what was going to happen. And that the part of the journey that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit was that you started out with a bill. What did that bill do, roughly? And then you reduced it to a study commission, and exactly how that went, because it was very surprising from where I was looking in.
It was, and let me preface by saying this: Department of Health, i.e., the governor, could do this tomorrow. They don't need legislation to do this. All he has to do is put out an RFP, so these managed care organizations can bid on it and start implementing this. So we don't need legislation to do this. I started out with a bill to simply get LDH to put together, update this RFP. They did the RFP, like I mentioned earlier, in Jim's first term, which is a tedious, time-consuming, complicated thing, right? Because that's a big deal. It's a lot of money involved. So all we really had to do was just update the original RFP from 8 or 9 years ago. And when I kind of hit a roadblock in committee in that, I said, look, let's just do a study commission. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this doesn't provide quality care. Maybe it doesn't save the state money. Maybe senior citizens don't want this option. They even killed that. And as Julie will tell you with her time in the legislature, we don't vote against study commissions really at all, unless they're just totally ridiculous. A study commission is just a friendly way of saying, your bill didn't make it, but we'll give you this. Y'all can look into it. Y'all can meet and we can go through, some of these exercises, gather some data. And even that got beat. And to me, that was just really, really overkill. What are they afraid of? Are they worried that the study commission is going to show that it does what we all think it will? I don't know. I think it will. I know it will. But that's kind of how that journey, where we kind of went last year. But I think this Hurricane Ida evacuation debacle with Bob Dean and his nursing homes kind of exacerbated the situation. And a lot of legislators are now kind of being educated on this issue and say, well, hey, wait a second, we'd like to do this. And look, and Julie knows this, there's no big, powerful lobby behind the home healthcare issue. It's just people like me and Julie and citizens saying, hey, we want this. So, we don't have all the glamour of the high price lobbyists that are there pushing. It really is a grassroots citizen effort to do this.
Well, and I can tell you that Ellevate has made a decision to get involved in the legislative effort around early childhood education, and there's a large contingency within Ellevate that wants to get involved, like on more of a PAC level on this issue too.
Well, y'all would bring a lot of credibility to this issue, and I'm glad y'all are doing that, because y'all help out a lot.
Well, we think it's very important. Now, I want to talk about just my own days and watching, and because I was on House Health and Welfare for all of the years that I was in the legislature.
Right.
And I was always amazed by the fact that we would kill this every time. And it didn't even seem to be a Republican versus Democrat thing. It just seemed to be pretty solid all the way across the spectrum. That seems to be the way it is, huh?
This is not a Republican, Democrat. I would say it's not a rich-poor issue, but it's a poor issue, because people like us are not going to qualify for this. It's low-income, people on that poverty level. So, where are the champions for the poor and people who don't get adequate health care? Where are they? Those are the ones that really need to get their voice heard. But it's not a partisan issue. It's not a rural versus city or anything like the usual battle lines that you and I have seen drawn for decades. It really has nothing to do with that. It really, if you're a fiscal hawk, so to speak, you would want this because it saves the state a tremendous amount of money. If you're an advocate for the poor and people who don't have adequate health care, you should be all over this. And they're there, Julie. We just got to get organized. People like groups like y'all helping us come together. We're really at the kind of the bottom, early stages of this movement.
Well, and it really struck me when I was in there. And I mean, it was years ago. I think it was Tony Bacala that brought a similar bill several years ago. And I was shocked by the fact that it got killed in such a dramatic fashion and from every side of the aisle. Because all I could think is, if it's about political donations, certainly, I mean, I don't know, they must not be funding me that well, because I can tell you, I couldn't possibly see that there was enough coming from there to move the needle, honestly. So then it always begs the question, what is it? Is it just that they hire so many lobbyists? Is it, it's kind of hard to break that code. I don't know if you have any insights on that to share, but
Lee Zirk did a expose on the donations that nursing homes donate to legislators and the governor, for that matter, and the governor before him. So he's not exclusive for that. And it is a lot of money, but as you and I know, you and I are very principled people. There's not enough money someone could donate to me to make me go from pro-life to pro-choice, or turn my back on the senior citizens. So I don't know what it is. I think we need to educate our legislators more, and they need to hear from people in their district. You need to call, people need to call their representative and senator and say, hey, I want this option for my loved ones, or maybe for me one day. And that's where we really need to start ramping up the grassroots effort.
One of the things that I've always kind of heard, and I'm not 100% sure that it's accurate, so I'm gonna put it out there and you can let me know, because I'm supposing that you studied it pretty well by now, but that nursing homes aren't paid based on patient nights. They're based upon how many beds they have, whether they're filled or not. Is that true? Because that's something I hear a lot.
That is true. Yeah, we pay empty beds every day. And the nursing homes have a moratorium on nursing homes that can be built in Louisiana. It's a good deal. If you're a nursing home owner, you're probably pretty well off. And I'm all about capitalism and people doing well. But this is a no-brainer. This is something our seniors deserve, and it makes sense. And if you look at the other states that have implemented this, the nursing homes aren't going out of business. I kind of look at this like the private school versus public school comparison. A good private school is going to make a public school better, because why would you pay to go to a private school when you can go to an equally good public school? So when vouchers come into play and private schools come into play, public schools have to up their game. So that's my argument on this. If the nursing homes are so great and we have great star ratings, which we don't from the Department of Health in Washington, why would they want to get healthcare at home? Why wouldn't they rather go to a nursing home? We do have limited vouchers that some people can get. They're called waivers that can get this home healthcare. There's 30,000 people on the waiting list. That should tell you something.
Yeah, that was one of my questions, because there are different pathways to achieving this goal. And, one of them, and I think what your bill said, was going out for the RFP to the managed care networks, and that's one way to do it. Is that right?
That's one way to do it. I mean, that's the most traditional way to do it. That's what Bobby Jindal's administration was poised to do. But and look, the governor has praised the MCOs on how they've implemented his Medicaid expansion. So why not give them a shot at this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have my husband's mother right now is at the point where she either needs somebody in her house all the time, and this woman has fed into everyone's life. So she's got a list of people that rotate in and out of her house and sit with her 24 hours a day. But she's not on Medicare. I mean, she's on Medicare, but not Medicaid. So, I mean, she's got the possibility of being able to pay for it.
Right.
But I've got to think that if they had more people out there that were getting that home health, that our home health care in our state might be more robust too, because part of the problem is finding people that can come and sit with you in your house and those
Right.
kinds of things.
I mean, I think this would spur a whole industry of home health care, which is, good jobs and creates jobs as well.
Well, I can tell you from the perspective of our family and my mother-in-law that she doesn't want to go in a nursing home. We don't want her to have to go in a nursing home. And another thing to note is that right now in this state, if you're in a nursing home, chances are you can't see visitors. So not only are you in an
That's right.
institutionalized setting, but because of COVID, you're completely cut off from your loved ones. I'd visit
Right.
her. She was in there for a little bit, and I'd visit her through her window and bring her a cup of coffee every day because she was right here locally, close to where
Right.
I was. But it's a sad state of affairs. So what's the next step? I mean, like, I know that
Well,
couldn't have been the best feeling. So how do you move forward?
the next step is we're going to get organized, and we're going to, a lot of legislators had contacted me when it was over. They're like, hey, we need to do this. I had a flurry of them contact me after the Bob Dean thing with Hurricane Ida. We're going to keep on trying and educating the legislators. I'm going to try to organize the home health care different companies around the state to try to get them coordinated with us. The AARP, they're big advocates of this. The problem is, Julie, there's no face to this, right? You don't have, like with breast cancer and things like that, you can have cancer survivors come to the table. You can have people battling cancer like you come to the table, tell us your stories. With tort reform, we had, commercial auto insurance people come and say, look, we can't even write here anymore. We're not going to get 85-year-old senior citizens to come to the Capitol and testify that they'd rather stay at home. So we really need to put a face to this thing, and we really need to get all the stakeholders who are for this, which there are a lot, organize them and kind of corral them into channeling our energy for the right things. But, we're not going to go away. What I'd like to do, we're going to go full court press in the spring, and hopefully at the very least, we'll make this an issue in the governor's election next time, like we did with, say, tort reform. We made that an issue in the 2019 gubernatorial election. This needs to be a hot button issue in the next governor's election if we can't get it done this session or next. But every year that goes by, there's more states that do this, and we have more data. If you look at the arguments of the opponents of this, it was, well, we don't really know what this will do. We don't have enough data. We don't know if this really works. We don't have any surveys to see if they like it. We're really getting a lot of that now, and we really need to comprise that data and really fine tune our argument for this.
Well, I really do think that this is a place where Ellevate can work together with
Definitely.
the legislature and with you as spearheading it and whoever else is spearheading it with you in the legislature. I think that certainly by next year, we should be looking at trying to mobilize and put a face to it. And there are faces to it all over the place, and there are elders. And they're the people that built our state. And now we need to build a future for them. That's what they want. I don't think, most of us kind of would like to be in our home and in our normal environment with our family, and certainly not in necessarily a nursing home where you're cut off from your family, especially with COVID. So I really applaud the work that you've done on this. And I was flabbergasted when they shot down the study resolution. I got to tell you.
Well, there was a lot of people that paved the way before me. Tony Bacala, who you mentioned, Democrat Walt Leger from New Orleans had this bill when he was in the House. Conrad Appel had the bill in the Senate. Rick Edmonds, Debbie Villio tried to do a study commission that got beat in the House her first year. So, there's a lot of people that have really put effort towards this. I'm just kind of one of the crew.
Yeah. Well, you definitely took a little bit of center stage this year. And for anyone that follows the legislature and knows the relative ease at which I've seen you get bills passed, and then to have a study commission killed. I mean, I was just like,
there's not many people that have that dubious honor to say they had a study commission killed. So I guess I'll take that as a badge of honor, I guess.
Yeah, that was, and it should be, because, you know, when you're out there doing it for the right reason, then you should hold it as a badge of honor.
Right.
And
And
so,
and let me say, Department of Health has a lot to answer for here. They're the ones that came to the table and said it's going to be $3 million to study this. And I just don't believe that, Julie. I just don't think that's anywhere near $3 million. The panel and the task force they had under Jindal did an enormous amount of that legwork. All they're doing is updating the RFP. A lot of that study has already been done. So, LDH, again, they could do this tomorrow. We don't need legislation. He could put this thing out to bid tomorrow and we would be on our way.
well, and I think that it sort of, in a sense, almost answers the question I have as a legislator when I was on health and welfare and watching bills like this get killed and thinking, how powerful is this lobby? I mean, it's not like I've seen them pour money into many of my friends in the legislature or my campaign, but I do think a lot of it hits at that highest level. And they pour a lot of money in at that highest level, which is the governorship, knowing that they can really block it and that they're the ones really that have the power. So that could be the answer to that question, honestly.
Yeah, and any of your listeners, if you want to Google Lee Zurich nursing homes, you can pull up, I think it was a 5-part expose on how that whole thing went down with the Jindal administration. It's pretty detailed and it's actually kind of sickening to read it all, to see how it all went down. But it's pretty telling on how we got to where we are right now.
Yeah. Like when I talk about it being something at the gubernatorial level, it's definitely not any sort of reflection on one party versus the other.
No, not at all.
It's been very distinct, a very distinct feature across the board.
Right.
Well, I just want to thank Senator Talbot for his time today.
Thank
you. And really thank you for being here. And to remind all of our listeners to sign up for the second annual summit on December 13th and 14th in Lake Charles. It'll be your chance to connect with other policy-minded people, especially women, about policy in our state. And as that relates to taxation and healthcare and education and K through 12 and higher ed and economic development and our budget. We're going to have a lot of really strong speakers, a panel on redistricting. The night before on the 13th will be kind of a party to welcome everybody. And then the 14th will be presenters and networking the whole day in Lake Charles. And if you can join us ahead of that afternoon on the 13th, we're going to have a day or an afternoon all about Lake Charles. So you'll meet local elected officials there. You'll meet the people that run the chamber there and the people that run the United Way and all the groups that are trying to help put Lake Charles back together after everything it went through in 2020. Because while the rest of us were suffering from the whole COVID problem, they had 2 hurricanes, a freeze, and everything you could imagine kind of heaped on top of their heads. So we're having our conference there to support the Lake Charles area. And you'll just love where we're having it at the Golden Nugget. It is a beautiful hotel. Even if you don't like gaming, you will love this conference. So check it out on our website, ellevatela.org. That's Ellevate with 2 L's, and just ellevatela.org. I'm your host, Julie Stokes, and we'll see you next time.